might be called a Goldstone phenomenon, because Goldstone is in many ways your classical liberal Jew, a renowned defender of human rights, a believer in the rule of law, and most Jews are liberal. Most Jews, their cast of mind is very similar to Goldstone. Jews, 80% of Jews voted for Barack Obama in the last election, which is more than Latinos. With Latinos, it was about 67%. Among whites in general, it was about 43%. Now, when you factor in that Jews are by far and away the wealthiest economic, ethnic group in the United States, well, Jews should have been voting overwhelmingly Republican. But no, Jews vote Democrat because Jews are liberal. And the fact of the matter is, it's now become impossible, or nearly impossible, to call yourself a liberal. Now, what does liberal mean in the United States? It means you believe in the rule of law, you believe in international institutions, you believe in human rights. Amnesty International is a liberal organization. Human Rights Watch is a liberal organization. It's now become nearly impossible for somebody to call themselves liberal, which is what most Jews call themselves, to call yourself liberal and to defend Israeli policy, to defend Israeli conduct. And in fact, it's been the liberal human rights organizations like Amnesty and Human Rights Watch which have been in the forefront of denouncing Israeli conduct. And so one may conclude reasonably that the Goldstone report, but more importantly, Goldstone the person, represents an important phenomenon, namely the breakup of unconditional support by American Jews of Israeli policy, and Jews generally, of Israeli policy. And that leads us to one last question before we get to hear your questions, and that's the most important question. What is to be done? And here I think we could take some advice or take some insight from the Mahatma, Mr. Gandhi from India. As all of you know, he had a doctrine of nonviolent resistance, and he called this doctrine of nonviolent resistance, he called it Satyagraha. And Satyagraha he translated as hold on to the truth. And I like that image, I like that metaphor. You're clinging to the last gasp to the truth. Hold on to the truth. And that's what I think we need to do. We need to hold on to the truth. To hold on to the truth that what Israel has done to the Palestinians is wrong, and it's indefensible. To hold on to the truth that a diplomatic settlement of the conflict is within reach. But it's Israel, backed by the United States, which shall remain the only obstacle at this point to resolving the conflict. And if we learn how to wield the weapon of truth as it's recorded in the findings of the human rights organizations, the weapon of justice as it's embodied in the uncontroversial principles of international law. The principles are very clear for resolving a conflict, but are completely uncontroversial under international law. The law says that the settlements Israel has built in the occupied territories are illegal. There's no question about that. There's no dispute about that. There's no controversy about that. When the issue was brought before the highest judicial body in the world, the International Court of Justice, 15 judges hailing from every corner of this planet. The American judge, Thomas Bergenthal, is Jewish, a Holocaust survivor. The British judge is Jewish, Rosalind Higgins. Every judge sitting on the court, not one, not two, not three, not a plurality, not a majority, unanimity, unanimously, all 15 judges said the settlements are illegal under international law. If time allowed me, I would go through all the other principles, but as I said, we hold on to the weapon of justice, the weapon of justice as it's embodied in the uncontroversial principles of international law. If we hold on to the weapons of truth and justice, then I think that's a real possibility. There's every reason to be optimistic. The conflict can be solved. The conflict can be solved in a way that allows for everybody to live a decent life. And that's where I'll leave you, except to say that sometimes I think there's a misunderstanding about what people, like to use myself not personally, what people like myself are up to. When I came to this campus this afternoon to speak, I felt like I was in the Colosseum in ancient Rome with the lions and the Christians. It was a very strange sight to behold. And I think people forget that the goal is, or the goal should be, the aim should be, to try to reach a just and lasting settlement of the conflict that enables everyone, and I do mean everyone, to lead proud, peaceful, and productive lives. That's the goal. All it requires is for us to respect basic principles of law and basic principles of human decency. It requires two things. Number one, that we be principled. As Mr. Gandhi used to say, I'm all for compromise, but not when it comes to principles. Because when you start compromising principles, he said, it becomes all give and no take. So there has to be a respect for principles. And the principles say, Israel has no title to any of the West Bank and Gaza. East Jerusalem is occupied Palestinian territory. The settlements are illegal under international law, and the Palestinian refugees have a right to return and compensation. Those are the uncontroversial principles of international law for which none of us should forfeit any of those rights. But while we're principled, we should also be reasonable. We should show our goal is not to vanquish, not to defeat, not to humiliate, to degrade, or to embarrass, not to put anyone in a corner such that they feel like there's no way out except to strike back. Our goal is not to be victor over vanquished. Our goal is to allow for everybody to live dignified lives. And if you respect those basic principles of decency, dignity, and the law, if you respect those basic principles, then, just like Jody concluded his remarks by quoting the late Said, like Professor Said, I will also. Professor Said, at the end of his life, he liked to quote the Caribbean poet Aimé Césaire. And the line he liked to quote was, "There's room for everyone at the rendezvous of victory." There's room for everyone at the rendezvous of victory. Just be fair. Be reasonable. Allow for everybody that dignified life that you want for yourself. Allow everyone to have that same chance at life's happiness that you want for yourself. There's no guarantee that we'll be happy in life, because human beings have a propensity for messing things up for themselves. Nonetheless, we're all entitled to the same crack or chance at life's happiness. To not allow for some people to languish in abject misery day after day after day, and the abject misery being periodically punctuated with merciless, murderous assaults on their daily life. If you say, I agree, I'm for everybody having a dignified life, then there's room for you at the rendezvous of victory. Now, I've been at this now for nearly 30 years. I first got involved in Israel in Lebanon in 1982. And it's a very sobering thought that the whole of my life passed involved in this, but I'm still determined that I will be there at that rendezvous of victory, and I hope that all of you will be there with me. Thank you. Thank you very much. I spoke to Youssef. At maximum, we have 25 minutes, because we have to speak later this evening at Riverside. So let's try to make maximum use of those 25 minutes. What I would like to do is first, Jolie, can you join me?